mashoko akataura kare naevo vamao vachitezezesa
We play the hits from a massive selection of music.
This is a Thursday, and you know what that means. It's a men's corner show with yours truly, DJ Sodza.
Zvisinei muri yeZimbabwe kupa kutenda kwamuri nekuteerera kwamunoita chirongwa. Thank you very much for tuning in and listening to the show. You know, when I come here on Thursday every day, I feel great, and the support that you give us on the show is tremendous. Looking at the numbers that will be listening and all that, it's just uplifting to come back every Thursday and, every Thursday to come here and just do what we've got to do. And also my thanks goes to the people that take their time out to come here on the show and share their thoughts on whatever a variety of things that we talk about. But anyway, last week I received an email from one of the listeners saying that, DJ, I think we should go live on Facebook as well, because we have to move with time. And I was very skeptical of the idea of going live on Facebook, but I think I'm liking the idea. And but we won't be live today, but I'm hoping that next week we will be live. And it is very interesting actually, and you may be able to see the faces of the panels as well here that we present the show with. So it will be nice interaction indeed. And what I'm liking most about the Facebook Live as well is because people can actually participate more there, because they can write whatever comments they wish to write on the feed, so that maybe we can share that as well, because I know some people don't even have Skype, and it's just easier to get on Facebook these days. Everyone will be on Facebook. So we are hoping that we are going to take the show to another level. Now, you see what happened here in the UK. We had terror attacks and all that, and condolences to those that lost their friends and family and all that. But you see, this is the world we are living in now. But what intrigued me was there is a link that there was a Zimbabwean guy as well linked to this guy and fighting in the ISIS there, which I don't know, it's not confirmed, but it was all over the news saying that this guy was recruited, and God knows where he is now. We don't know. And someone was telling me that this is maybe one of the first guy to come out of Zimbabwe to be associated with this terrorism from ISIS and all the like. But anyhow, we don't know that, but we've got other things that we need to talk about today. Right, let me introduce the panel for today. I know there's some people who are still on their way coming to the show, but as always, I'm told Zimbabwean men are always late to whatever they do. I don't know. I'm always on time, but I don't know. And most of them, they are always late. But I can talk for myself. I'm always on time. If you go and ask my boss, will tell you that Sodza is a cut above when it comes to punctuality and be there on time. Right. Koma Elliot Febemasira say.
Indaswera DJ Sodza. Makadi muri yeZimbabwe kumativi mana enyika kwamuri. Sally, how are you? Good evening, Sally.
Good evening, Elliot.
Yeah, let me also congratulate all our listeners in the Chiti Move Africa Day Rakanaka. Hopefully you have reflected on our journey as Africans and you are either contented or you've got much to say about where we are.
Thank you so much. Sally, welcome to the show.
Thank you, DJ Sodza. Good evening, Elliot. Good evening, Wilbert. Good evening, Zimbabweans, wherever you are. I hope you've had a good and safe day and that your week has been fantastic. To Manchester, my sympathy, my love, my prayers go to each and every single one of you. And to those that have lost loved ones, may their souls find peace. Thank you, DJ Sodza.
Thank you so much, Sally, for that uplifting message there. Mukoma Wilbert, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Hello, everybody, wherever you are in the world, and I hope you had a wonderful week and a wonderful Africa Day, and the opportunity to reflect on Africa and our many teething problems, which hopefully we can find solutions to. And I hope that this program is doing its bit to help find that solution.
And thank you so much. Did you find yourself in the crossfire, Mukoma Wilbert? I know that you are in Manchester there.
I wasn't out actually, but I've been to where that bomb took place, the Manchester Arena. It's really a very big place, and it's very popular with shows. And on one occasion, actually last time I took my my niece and their friends there. So you really realize that it could easily have been you.
Okay.
It's tragic.
Thank you so much, Mukoma Wilbert, for that. And Suziwa, I always follow you on Twitter and Facebook, and it's very interesting some of the things that you come up with. But I was particularly intrigued with the question that you asked this afternoon, saying that why is that our African leaders have a higher life expectancy than the people they lead? It got me thinking, and I was reflecting on what's happening in Africa as we commemorate the Africa Day today. It was an appropriate question to ask, and I never thought about it actually. But once I read what you put on Facebook there, I thought, wow, what to make? How do you come up with such questions?
Right, yeah. I mean, I follow quite a lot in terms of politics in Africa. I follow also in terms of the trade regime. And I am very much interested in knowing where the direction of Africa. And it being on the 25th of May, Africa Day, the founding day of Organization African of Unity, I reflected on the fact that, you look at Zimbabwe, for example, the president is 93 years old, all right? In a country where the life expectancy is around 40, right? And that the average for Africa is 52 years. But you just reflect on all leaders in Africa. They are all 70s, 80s, yet they are not in a hurry to improve the livelihood of their own people so that they can also have a good life expectancy or improved life expectancy like other nations. So I thought, well, it is befitting just to throw the spanners in the works and see the reaction of Africans. And I think people enjoyed it, and people started debating and contributing, which is what it should be, in a way.
Very interesting indeed. Right. Thank you so much. Sekuru Maskera Zegwa. Sekuru, hello, Pasimnet Radio, Maswera say. Babangu Chinandi. Inga shagandume. Sekuru Mok. Right. Okay. Sekuru Muripo ira. Mukoma Belford.
Hello, DJ Sodza.
Yeah, Trikun's got that noise from last week, but you didn't get matches.
Hello, Magunizwa.
Maswera say.
Maswera say going.
I want to say as but I'm Makadar. Sekuru Mapinda area. Right. I think Sekuru any problem in my here. Now, Mukoma Wilbert.
Hello.
Maunzwa mvunzo anga wabvunzwa navapebve pa Facebook feed yawo iyi, which was quite interesting kuti ngei muchifunga imi kuti ma-leaders ekuAfrica they've got such a high life expectancy compared to the people they lead.
Well, they can afford the best medical facilities that there is in the world there. I mean, we spend what? Our president goes to the Far East sometimes as much as 3 times a month at a cost of $3 million a trip. You know, that's $9 million on his health. That's an eye check. You know, I mean, with that kind of quality health service, you'll be hard pushed to find it. Many people, even in the developed world, who have got access to that kind of medical health. So this is the tragedy of it, that all resources have been diverted to look after the health of the ruling elite at the expense of even the most basic health requirements of the ordinary person. So it's not surprising.
It's not surprising. It's not rocket science.
No, I mean, it's not. I mean, if you spend that kind of money on the health of anybody, the chances are they will definitely have a longer life. There's no doubt about it. And the tragedy of it is that was it last month there was reports that in Zimbabwe alone over 200 people died of malaria, and I can bet you most of those people who died is either they couldn't afford the malaria tablets or they were not available. That is how tragic it is. In this day and age, people are dying of simple, curable diseases like malaria.
Right, okay.
Where somebody's spending millions of dollars for an eye check. That's really tragic. It's sad.
That is very sad. Okay. Aiwa, thank you so much, Mkoma Wilbert. Sekuru, can you hear us now then?
Ndirikunzwai makadiko.
Aha. Kwazisaiwa tere.
Vana veZimbabwe makorokoto nerimwe gore reAfrica. Murambe makateerera paZimnet Main Radio.
Aha, aiwa. Ndatenda zvangu Sekuru nekuuya kwamaita pachirongwa. Sally, I want to come to you there in South Africa. You are residing in Africa yourself. And first of all, can you answer that question that Wapepe asked is to simply, why is it that all these African leaders live for eternity, yet their people are dying, every day at a very tender age?
Like flies.
Mm.
Even the Nigerian guy went over to, where was it? UK or whatever it was, for some unknown treatment.
UK.
This is ridiculous. Absolutely. Do you know, I've got to the stage where I'm giving up because nothing makes sense. Mugabe is 93 years old. The guy has to have a stick up his hand to keep him standing straight. He flies to Singapore, I don't know how many times. Okay? He's 93. He's not supposed to be flying nowhere. Number one. Number two, we had one of the best healthcare systems, or whatever you want to call it. Okay? Today, people are dying of malaria. Why? You know that malaria around the towns was controlled because they had spraying, vigorous spraying. Sometimes they would go house to house if it had been very rainy season, okay? And they would get people to take away the pools of water and all this kind of business, okay? I mean, it was brilliant. Now the solution is, I don't want to say his name because I get it wrong, but old Dr. Pari, blah blah blah. I say it wrong, and people say I'm insulting. No, I'm not going to say it. Has now said that to combat malaria, they're going to reintroduce a new drug. I mean, they're going to introduce a new drug. Where are they going to get the money for the new drug? Okay? How are they going to get it to the people in the rural areas? Because they need it badly. When clinics aren't even open or working properly. But our darling, beautiful, so young leader flies to Singapore to have his cataracts removed or checked or whatever. Mutari, at the Mutari District Hospital, used to have a sick eye surgeon, okay, that only worked on cataracts, and he used to go throughout the eastern districts, okay, into the rural areas and everything, and then he'd be at the Mutari District Hospital, I think it was twice a month or something, okay, and he removed cataracts. I mean, he was absolutely brilliant. And that was 1990. Now, go to the Mutari Hospital and see. There are people dying in the passageway because there aren't enough beds. A woman went in, okay, with kidney problems. They gave her Panadol because they had nothing.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. So, Sally, it is clear. It is clear here.
Disgusting.
It is disgusting. Disgusting. It is clear here that you feel that it is simply because these leaders have they flew out of the country to get the best medical treatment that they can have, yet their people cannot afford it, and they are not doing anything to try and
before
develop
we say
it.
anything more, some of our best doctors from Africa are in Europe.
Yes.
Why? Why? Because we can't keep our doctors here. We would rather pay vast amounts of money to imbecilic leaders, okay, than take care of our health system and take care of our homebred doctors and nurses. I mean, it's pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic. You go to Nigeria, okay? Go and have a look at those Nigerian hospitals. And Nigeria is an oil-rich country. I mean,
Okay.
I don't know. It just drives me nuts.
It does drive you nuts, Sally. It does drive a lot of people nuts. Anyhow, thank you so much for your contribution there. tirakuenda pane Mukoma Benford. Mukoma Benford, a simple question that Comrade Feve asked kuti why is it that all African, now we are not talking about Mugabe here, we are talking about all African leaders there, they literally live for eternity. If you look at it, some of them dies in their 80s, 90s and all that kind of stuff, but the rest of the population, you know, they are dying young. Why is there a big gap there?
You know, that's an interesting question, and I don't think there's a straightforward answer for that. Those are issues of life, and some people are lucky to get lifespan yakakura, and some people will die early. The other factors, you know, contribute towards that as well. But last and above all, it does not mean if you have all the resources at your disposal, it wouldn't translate to a long lifespan. I've seen very, people, billionaires, people with a lot of money dying early as well. So I'm torn, in trying to respond to your answer.
Yeah, but maybe you can give me an example of a president or a prime minister in Africa who died maybe in their 40s or 50s or 60s for that matter.
You also have to look at what age do these people get into power as well. Can you also give me examples of when you had the president who is 40 in Africa? Most of these guys get into power when they are already into the 60s and 70s. And it's very rare to find someone as young as Joseph Kabila who became president at the age of 29 in Africa. Most of the time, unenga wati kurei kuti uzoita president of Africa, which is different from Americas and Europe as well. So that gap might also be there. What I wanted to address as well is, I guess most people would want to think that these guys are using government resources for a medical checkup, while they are not maintaining good health systems in their own countries. That is true. But what Sally was saying about our doctors being in Europe, we should also realize that Europe is also draining Africa. That brain drain that is taking place, Europe is ashamed of themselves for doing that. Because a poor country like Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Zambia invest in training medical doctors, and these guys recruit them. Australia, African nurses, they're being recruited there. And we can't compare. You can't expect to put Zimbabwe or Zambia competitive conditions like Australia. So when they're having these policies where they are directly recruiting health personnel from poor African countries, I think that should also be condemned as well.
All right. So, Mukoma Benford, if you, I don't know what you do there in America and what profession you are into. If you were a doctor in Zimbabwe and you get a job in America there, would you say, I don't want to go to America, I want to stay here and work in Zimbabwe?
Yeah, ndo pandiri kutaura ka DJ Sodza kuti you can't expect kuti Zimbabwe compete ne America kana Australia. So once I have a good job in Australia, I get a job in Australia, I have to look at the broader picture. Kandine vana vangu, how they're going to do this blah blah. And that is where Africa is caught wanting. Because definitely we can't compete with these first world class countries. What is wrong is these countries directly recruiting people from these poor countries.
Okay.
So it's very unfair.
You think it should be banned? What about that doctor who would like to go and work in Australia, out of their wish, really, would it be fair for the Australian government, to say, Aiwa, simply because you are from Zimbabwe, atisi kukuda kuno kuchigara ikuku, but dai wanga uri kuZambia pamwe taikutora wauya kuno, would that be good?
Now let me give you an example, DJ Sodza, of a country that I think has done a lot for Africa and is not usually acknowledged. If you look at the Netherlands, Netherlands, invests a lot in training of personnel from African countries. But once you get to Netherlands, if you get a master's or PhD, after you are done, they release you. You have to go back to your country. They rarely recruit you to Ushande in Netherlands. So that's empowering Africa. Now, if you look at all these other countries, some of us, we came to the US, back to Africa, and we never went back. So basically, it means my resources that I can invest by those African countries in us, were used for the benefit of the Americans. Now we are benefiting the American system, and it's a huge loss to Africa. So that is why the point that I'm trying to say here is first world class countries should also have policies that ensures that Africa benefits from investment in their personnel. I cannot give a good example of Zimbabwe at the moment because we have to absorb all my nurses. But if you look at a country like South Africa, most of their personnel are drained. I can give you an example of veterinary field, where most of the South African trained vets are recruited by UK and Australia. And they did not be in Zimbabwe. Vets are also struggling in their field. That gap, there would be a huge gap in the veterinary field for South Africa. And yet nobody mentions that.
All right. Thank you so much, Mkoma Penford. Right. Sekuru.
Ewa muzukuru.
Ndinoziziva sekuru kuti munoteerawo zvine zviri kutaurwa navapfebve paTwitter and Facebook. Maionawo message yawaisa paFacebook?
Handina kuiona.
Yavanga vari kubvunza iyo kuti indava vatungamiriri vekuAfrica vachirarama really for eternity, and yet vanhu vavo vavanotungamirira really they die so young. Could it be coincident?
Aiwa, haisi coincident. Uyu anga achitaura chiko apedzisira kutaura. Anga achitaura izvozvo here kuti anga achitaura.
Ndo zvandanga ndavabvunza, but he went on to expand into other things.
Oh, okay. Hapana coincidence, but it's by design that if you have got the care that is adequate to maintain your health, you live longer than the person who doesn't have the medical care to look after their physical requirements. So what is happening is in Africa, all the leaders have got access to a bountiful of looted resources that they use for personal health sustenance, and they live longer, obviously.
Okay. So for you, it is a straightforward answer there.
It is a very straightforward answer. To me, there is no debate about that. The reason why the leadership in Africa lives longer than its subjects or its followers is because they can look after their health better through stolen resources, which they deprive others of. So that to me is the beginning and the end of it. It's the alpha and the omega. Izvi zvese zvandandaudzwa zvazvautaurwa zvokuti vanhu vanobirirwa vanhu madhokita achichi hazvina ane basa rese izvo. That is absolute rubbish, because vanhu vacho havangotorwi ikoko, vanotoapply, vanotonya kuti abeg to apply, havaunzunzi enda uko, ndo vanototsvaga vega.
It is their wish.
Yeah, vanototsvaga because pane zvese zvichivasunda kumashure uko, zvimwe zvacho ndezvekubirirwa izvozvo zvokudzidziswa kuti varapwe.
Sekuru.
Taura tinzwe muzukuru.
I think kana muka air pfungwa dzenyu without necessarily saying rubbish to what somebody has said zvinotibatsira.
Handina kuti uri rubbish, ndati zvekuti vanhu vanobiwa nemadeveloped countries is rubbish because vanhu vacho vanoapply vega. Handina kuti zvawataura zviri rubbish, ndati zvokuti vanobiwa is rubbish. And it is, I maintain that because vanhu vacho vanoapply vega kuti ndoda kuinda kwakati, havanzi uya kuno kuita zvokunobiwa kana kuitwa zvevasikana vanonotengeswa zviya zvehuman trafficking. Havaitwi saizvozvo, vanotouya vega. In fact vakatonzi vadzoserwe vakadhipotiwa vanototsvaga maroya nemagweta kuti hatidi kudzokera ikoko kunonetsa. You can't blame them because vari kunyimwa zvavanofanira kunge vachishandisa, so they look for where they can find it. Now, a human instinct to survive. So, how can you then say the person who is offering the means you go to survive is doing them harm or is doing Africa harm when Africa is actually denying them those resources? I mean, ukazvibalance on a balance but scale or so. Unauti sure is hazina musoro zvandataura dzimwe nguva izvi.
Right. So
We've listened to better music. We've seen better things. We've been to it all. Zimnet Radio all the way.
Sekuru nyaya mataura iyi yamakupinda nayo namukoma Benford, it's another platform that we didn't want to go down that route, but it's very interesting actually. But before musati madisandadaroga ndikwazise vamukanya maswera sei?
Muri bwere makadi DJ kwakadi kunobiwa.
Kuno kungodaro tanzwa nekutsva kuno ku-UK kuno. Tumirai kachando kuno a little bit.
Kuno nhasi kuri kupisawo futi kuno.
Kana sekuru nhasi is not whinging at all today, he's happy.
Sekuru vari boma. Vari boma, yeah, vari boma, right.
Alright, thank you so much Mkanya Batai Makadara. Right. Mukoma Wilbert.
Hello.
Mainzwa nyaya yatangwa na mukoma Benford na sekuru yawakunetsana iyi. Imimi, do you think kuti ma countries ari kuno ku Europe are to blame for milking top class doctors and engineers and all those people, I mean working class people into their countries? Do you think they are to blame?
I think Sekuru is right there. When you're looking at Zimbabwe right now, you go back, you have been back there in Sodza recently.
Yes.
How many professionals do you know in Zimbabwe who are doing nothing? This is the reality of it. We train all those people, and some of them university graduates, and the only thing they can get is jobs on the street selling airtime. That is a waste of humanity. That, and if we're going to start saying they should be allowed, they should be forced to stay there and do what? Hospitals have closed, clinics have closed, right, center, and left. So even if you're a doctor, what good are you if you are going to be told you're working in a hospital where there is not even the painkillers? I think the point here is that the economy itself, when it has gone down to the point where you are draining all the resources to use on one individual who doesn't even want to have an eye check in Zimbabwe. Sally was right that we had some of the best doctors in Africa and in the world, in fact. And you find Kuti, if you want to tell me Kuti, even for an eye checkup, he has got to go all the way to Singapore. Are we really saying we cannot train Zimbabweans who can do that? But if you're not offering them the money, the resources to do that work, what do you expect them to do? You know, I think in this particular case, to start saying, blaming somebody is stealing our professionals, is not totally being unrealistic. Go to Zimbabwe right now and find out how many doctors, how many engineers, how many nurses are unemployed before you start saying there is a brain drain of professionals. There isn't.
Mukoma Benford, would you like to counteract that?
Okay, let me respond for a minute. I think the problem we are having here is we are trying to have a discussion about Africa.
Yes.
And at the same time, we are talking as if Zimbabwe is Africa. I think that is what is giving us this problem. Because some of you are talking as if Zimbabwe is Africa. They are referring to Zimbabwe, we can create those. And we are assuming that that is the entire situation across the African continent. So if we are going to have a discussion about Africa, let that be Africa. If it is a discussion about Zimbabwe, let's talk about Zimbabwe.
Yeah, but Zimbabwe is in Africa, so it's included there.
Yes, but Zimbabwe is not Africa. If you look at what is happening, a country like South Africa, they can afford to provide jobs to their jobs.
Hang on, Mukoma Benford. I'm still awake today. I'm not asleep. I know last time Mukoma teacher said, Sodza Africa. You know what? Mukoma Benford, you were here a couple of weeks ago. When we discussing Vamgabe vati Zimbabwe is second developed country in Africa, and you acknowledge that the president was 110% correct by saying that. Now, if you are saying to South Africa, they don't need to come out of South Africa to come to Europe to seek for jobs. Surely Zimbabwe is second developed country in Africa. We should need to come out, should we?
Now I think you are mixing things. It depends on what are we talking about. Now, kana muchiti mubvunzo wamukutaura kuti Zimbabwe is the second, was it richest countries in Africa, whatever?
No, it was developed country. Those were the facts. And you rang here in our Moyo and you said kuti you are 100% behind the president, and you believe that Zimbabwe it is indeed or second only to South Africa when it comes to development, developed African country in Africa. Now you are saying kuti no, let's not include Zimbabwe because we've got we're talking Africa here, and South Africa they don't need to come out here to look for a job. Surely Zimbabwe is second to South Africa. People shouldn't come out.
It depends on what you
okay. All right.
This is what I'm talking about.
Okay. So Imemi, you are sticking by your story that these European countries and the West is to blame for draining Zimbabwe's brains. Kuanza kuno kuma doctors, ma nurses, they run away kuya kuno ku Europe kuno.
Now I think you see kwa kuendesa nyaya yacho DJ Sodza maakuti Zimbabwe anidi
Africa.
And yet from Africa, and you are replacing Africa and Zimbabwe, and that is where I have the problem with.
If you
want to focus on Zimbabwe, let's focus on Zimbabwe, and then you
answer that Africa insinuation. Which African country is losing its manpower or human resources to the West?
I have given you an example of South Africa, for example. South Africa.
The question that I was going to ask does not necessarily end with what you have said. I've heard what you have said. What I am asking is, which African country is capable of retaining its resources, human resources, qualified human resources, the ones they have invested in, by giving them a competitive environment to work in and to develop as professionals, that would dissuade them from looking elsewhere for greener pastures. South Africa certainly
South Africa, can South Africa out of that?
Yes, Mkana.
Kuma indakauya muno kuma 1990 muno munyika muno, and Canada yanga ina agreement nema African countries akawanda kutraina ma-professionals. At one point they were even at 1.3 or 500, including medicine, engineering, kune vatakasangana vaibva kuKenya, Tanzania, neNigeria. Munhu wese akabva kuTanzania akauya kuma-1990s akadzokera. Munhu wese akabva kuZimbabwe, well, there were few, but the majority by 1999 vakadzokera. And then South Africa kuri kutaurwa, South Africa inamboruza madokta akawanda zvakaitika South Africa ndezvekuti after apartheid yaabolishwa, a lot of madokta akauya kuno but vaikanga vasingadi kutongwa nevanhu vatema, vakaenda kuno. Now most of them vari kuweka murural Manitoba, madoctors ekusouth Africa, but madoctors ekusouth Africa ari kuno andinoziva vazhinji vacho varungu, vakanga vachitiza nenyaya yekuti apartheid yanga yaitwa abolish. Vanhu vakatrainwa different fields ekusouth Africa muno, there were a lot of them kuma 1990, but vazhinji vavo vakadzokera. Now, as compared to even Nigerians,
we have listened to better music. We have seen better things. We've been to it all. Zimnet Radio, all the way.
Because vakanga vatoestablisha mafamilies avo vakagara muno mavana kuzodzokera. And I saw them vazhinji vachidzokera, especially pakadzokera Obasanjo power, because the systems, actually even the government in Nigeria was actively recruiting vanhu vavo kuti vadzokere kuNigeria kuma 2010 2012. Now as far as I know, vanhu vazhinji vandoziva ma-professional, nyaya yema-resources inotaurwa, it depends kuti vanhu vachona, money is not a big deal as long as kune vamwe vanhu, but vanhu vandoziva they were very committed vachida kudzokera kumusha kwavo kunoita mabasa. Saka as long as they were living very decent life, vamwe madoctors andoziva ari kunoku. One of the reasons pavakadzoka vekuZimbabwe was that mumwe andontaura kuti zvaitondirwadza zvokuti ndaitoona vanhu vachifa, isu tichikwanisa kutsvaga mushonga kuti iwo wangotarira mupatient, you know the treatment iriko but yaishayika muZimbabwe. And that was something zvavaitaura zvaitova frustrata kuti no, taikwanisa kugara ipapo but chairwadza kuti taitoona vanhu vachifa, but mushonga yacho tinogona kuwanikwa, but ongozwa kuti mushonga hapana. Yani munhu wofasaka unoda kuti iwe as a doctor, what is the role yako? Unoda unotarira vanhu here, what are you doing?
All right, Mukanya regaindi kubate ipapo. Thank you so much. Tine vamwe vakawanda vari kuteerera pano vari kuda kuti vapindewo vakurukure. Mubvunzo wandava kuda kubvunza Mukanya ndewekuti mimi, do you think kuti it is morally right for these Western countries to recruit from Zimbabwe? whether those people not from Zimbabwe, from Africa, whether those African professionals applied or not. Is that morally right? Yes or no?
It's not a question of morality. It's not a question of morality. It's a question of equity. People make their own choices in life. Ava vekuwest vanouya votsvaga mabasa vatsvanhu vanovabatsira mumasystems avo, and if they get them they will get them. But what is more important ndeyekuti on the ground kwachono kuAfrica we have to create ma opportunities for our people to come back. Kana paine munhu I mean ma opportunities pasina and they have no job, I mean of course you have to come here and work because you have to feed your family. Saka it's not a question of morality, and we have known that kuti my Western countries, they did not only start taking people, slaves and brought them here. Saka kuramba tichivabvunza kuti morality is not a question of morality, it's a question of patiri pano. Let's create situations so that we can retain our own people.
All right. Thank you so much. Teto mashoko maswera seiko. Teto mashoko makadiko. Right. Vamoyo mamuka sei?
Ndamuka mukoma maswera sei.
Aiwa, taswera zvidisi. Kuri sei kwenyu?
Ndizvozvo kwakuda kuitawo kachando.
Happy Africa Day. Ngati Happy Africa Day.
Tinonzwa kufara chaizvo. Izuva redu zve, handi ndisi maAfricans acho.
Aiwa, tisu anacho zve. Ko zvataurwa izvo. Zviri kutaurwa zviri mudariro izvo kwanzi iko iwo makandis akaita sana Australia aya ndio ari kutokanganisa Africa by recruiting people like you kuti vandoshande ikoko muchitadza kushanda kunyika dzenyu dzekuAfrica. What do you say about that?
Kwete atingadaro nokuti ava vanhu vane masystem avo avanoda kuti ashande. Kana ivo vachinge vaona kuti isusu hatina vanhu vakakwana wekuti masystems edu aya ashande, vanongovhura madoors avo, zvanovhura masanho avo voti hai anoda kuuya huya. Remember kuti havaiti zvokuti iwewe nhingi huya kuno. Aiwa, ivo ndo vanongovhura chetichi madoors avo kuti isusu takati kudo vanhu vanoita zvakati, vanhu vanoita zvakati. Isusu vanhu ndisu tochiaplya tega kuti ndikudo basa. Iwo woti aiwa unorigona here, woratidzwa kuti unorigona. Iwo woti aiwa ndiye munhu watiri kuda uyu, wotora. Saka kana ivo vachida munhu vakawana munhu vakatora, haungati vakanganisa. Aiwa, ipapo havana kukanganisa. Semaonero angu inini ivo vatoda kuti zvinhu zvavo zvifambe. Asi isisu manje ndisi tine dambudziko rekuti hatidi kugadzirisa zvinhu zvedu, toda kugadzirisa zvinhu zvevamwe, tichifungidzira kuti kune vamwe vachagadzirisa zvinhu zvedu isisu. Ipapo ndo pandozoona paine dambudziko.
Okay. That's fine. Okay, saka dambudziko riri kweduko. Saka dambudziko iri, how can we rectify it kweduko kana tirisu tine dambudziko?
Right. Ndakambotumira kamwe kavidhiyo paplatform yenyu mukoma. Dambudziko riri mupfungwa dzedu, riri mumafungiro edu. Dambudziko guru ratinaro isu ndere dependency syndrome. Zviya zvokuti we are cry babies. We are experts pa being cry babies. Kuridza mhere zviya, and kana mwana achichema anenge achida kuti mai vaise zamu mukanwa, ayamwe anwe, kana kuti vaise teaspoon ine sereraki mukanwa. Ndo zvaanenge achichemera izvozvo. This is the mentality yatinayo isisu. we need to get away from that mentality, from the dependency syndrome to an independent syndrome. Zviya zvokuti anonyatsoziva dambudziko redu chairo chairo ndisu, nokuti ndisu tine dambudziko racho, ndisu zvakare tofanira kugadzirisa dambudziko iroro. Problem yatinayo ndeyekuti for more than 70 years now, we as Africans, we have been hopeful that one day somebody will come from somewhere or enter into some place somewhere and he does something to help somebody, and then somebody will benefit from that. The sooner we realize that one is a very senseless dream that will never get us anywhere, the better. All the other countries that were in a situation, some of them worse than ours, are doing much better than us now, and nobody ever went there to help them. They looked at themselves internally and started dealing with their own problems. So unless we start doing that, we will never come out of our problems.
Okay.
Africa, we have everything that we need to get out of the problems that we have. The only thing that we are lacking, which is not there completely, is the mindset. But in terms of what we need to use to better our own lives, we have everything that we need. God bless us with everything. The only thing that is in our mindset, that is our problem.
Aiwa mashoko akanaka. Vamoyo, thank you very much for that message there. Zvanda kuita pana pa Zimbabwe ka.
Something PJ there. Just for Moyo to clarify. Are you Moyo, this mindset, would you say it is also present in the ZANU-PF leadership?
When I talk of Africans, I talk of everybody. ZANU-PF my Africans. So when I say Africans, I'm looking at Africans from Cape to Cairo. That includes the ZANU-PF, that includes every other African. Although ZANU-PF seems to be moving out of that. If you look at their policies, if we were to discuss their policies, they are moving away from this dependency syndrome.
Okay.
But we still have two main things there, which is firstly policy formulation.
Let's clarify to follow up on that.
All right.
Can you answer me this? Are you saying more the leadership of the ordinary person has got this problem?
I wanted to clarify, policy formulation is one thing. Policy implementation is another thing. In terms of policy formulation, ZANU-PF is the best in the whole of the African continent. It is the best in policy formulation. But the policy implementation, this is where they become mediocres like any other African institution.
All right.
But in the case of Zimbabwe, who would you put the blame on? The leadership or the ordinary person?
Everybody. In fact, the ordinary person, it is the ordinary person.
All right.
The moment we say saying we are not responsible. Responsibility. We are still going back to the same hopeless dependency. Dependence mentality.
Pamsore,
we need to get rid of that.
Vamoyo, pamsore. Zvanda kuita panapa a minute past 11. Regain popinda muchitoro for 2 minutes. Ndodzoka tofambira mberi. Ndoda kuti ndinzwewo kuna apfebve, ndinzwewo kuna Sari.
Let the whole world know about your business. Advertise with Zimnet Radio. Email marketing@zimnetradio.com. and gentlemen, welcome. You are listening to DJ Sodza live on Simnet Radio.
Yes, and this Steve Kekana Kwanziko, all I need is right here in Africa. What a beautiful track there. And if all we needed was there in Africa, I don't think we'll be broadcasting out of Zimbabwe right now. Do you? Now, Zimbabwe, there is an issue that I talked about earlier on that got a couple of emails. People saying that, DJ, we should go live now on Facebook. That is where everything is happening. So the idea is we'll be streaming live both on radio and on Facebook straight away. Now, what I am trying to do, I'm in the process of implementing or building a studio for all these things so that we can have a fabulous Facebook interaction as well. So basically, vadare vangu vandinofamba nawo mazuva ano. I'm sure they are all listening and they are happy with it. I'm going to ask each and every one of them if they are happy to be live on Facebook. If they are, what we do is kwanziko nevakuru vebasa kuno kuti nozvidopa kuti when, let's say, Vapeve is talking, Vapeve's face will be live there. When Mkoma Ulbet is talking, he will be live. When Teto Mashoko is talking, she will be live. Things like that. How they are going to do it, only God knows. I don't know. But we will try it. They are building it, and we will see where we go from there. Because we have to move with times. So, we are talking Africa. It is a happy Africa Day to people. But we are just talking Africa. And something came up. When I first started, I asked it, these African leaders, how come their life expectancy is so high compared to the people they lead? But then it was ridiculous. That's a ridiculous question, because this is nature. And in other words, some of these people as well, they've got money for medical help, which is advanced. They can fly out of the country and get themselves checked out. Yet, some people out there are poor and they cannot afford it. Hence, vanofane zvirwere which are curable, but havana kana mushonga wacho kuti vabatsirikana. But zvisinei, kwazopinda nyaya yekuti actually the blame should lie on these Western countries that recruit from Africa. Why are they taking vana vakaita sana mukoma Tawanda Dzokora, ma professor out of Africa, to enrich their countries? They should leave them in Africa. Vana vamoya, what are they doing in Australia? They should be back home. Australia should be banned from recruiting people like Lamoyo. And that can develop Africa. Do you agree with that? Vapeve, do you agree with that sentiment?
No, I don't at all. I think, let me make it very clear. There's no country whatsoever on earth is in a brain drain. Even ukataza go to UK, my British people, they are all over the world. America, my Americans, they are all over the world. In this free market, people purely they apply for jobs anywhere where they are required. Now, in terms of, look at China, for example. Almost every country in the world has got my Chinese. But look at the fast growing economy in the world now. Is the second biggest economy in the world, China. Right? They were able to attract even my Chinese, right? With their skills to attract them back. So it boils down to my policies and leadership, the government, the present government. If you put in coherent policies, they need to attract people with the right skills. You'll find all your people with any skills are out there. They'll come back, right? So it's not unique to Zimbabwe and it's not unique to Africa. But our biggest problem is the leadership. I know some people were trying to sort of circumvent. The problem is the leadership. Leadership, the government of the day, you need to come up with my policies. My policies, first of all, I think we talked about in terms of my hospitals. My hospitals, they've no equipment, they've no medication, the systems are broken down. But here is the situation where one president, the president of Zimbabwe, Wega one, spend the entire budget, ye Minister of Health, only one. And this person is 93-year-old. He's already gone. But millions and millions, they are being channeled for one person, right? And we cannot blame anybody else. We can only blame the government. And we can only blame the leaders, my leadership, in Africa. They need to be accountable. They need to make sure that the budgets, they put much focus in improving people's lives, much focus in improving people's health. And I think this is where Africa is lacking. I can give you an example. Here's Zimbabwe. Zimbabwean government has always been against accountability because it is corrupt. And I can give an example. The reason why they opted out of Commonwealth is because they didn't want to be accountable. And I will share this with our viewers. Maybe many of you were not aware, Zimbabwe actually opted out of the least developed country index, which is classified under the United Nations, because of the stringent accountability required, and they didn't want that. Now, Zimbabwe, there are 48. There are 48 countries, right? 48 countries. Out of the 48 countries, 33 countries they are in Africa. The LDCs, right? There are only two countries, Zimbabwe and Ghana, that opted out, right? And the benefits of being under the LDCs is that in terms of ODS, in other words, the assistance, development assistance from IMF, from World Bank, and also access to debt relief. And this is why all the other southern countries, the debt relief, Mozambique, they are debt cancelled, Zambia and Malawi, except Zimbabwe, because the Zimbabwe leadership itself doesn't want to be accountable, and it's an arrogant leadership that we have in ZANU-PF. So yes, I mean, it's very clear that the buck stops with the leadership in Africa, and in Zimbabwe in particular, with Robert Mugabe and ZANU-PF.
Okay. Aywa, thank you so much. Sally, do you agree with Mkoma Benford in saying, these people really, they should, the West should stop recruiting people from Africa and see what happens. These people can stay there and develop their country. Why do they need to be recruited somewhere else?
Seriously, the way Bedford talks, you think they were recruitment armies descending on Africa and saying, right, we need doctors, you come. No. I'll give an example that I know of here in Cape Town, okay? We have got interns. Say there's 50 interns, okay? It was a scandal like I haven't heard for a long time. These interns are being put to work, okay? They are working, the one intern, and she ended up being killed, okay? She driving home from work, and she fell asleep behind the wheel, and she went straight into a lamppost, and she was killed outright. They went back into her records, okay? She had worked, I think it was 2 hours short of a week, day and night, without a break. Without a break, okay? Do you know what that's like? And you are dealing with people's lives, okay? And then the government suddenly decided, oh, we better do something, okay? And the interns throughout South Africa had been begging the government to sort it out because they are dying from exhaustion, okay? The pay is pathetic. The hours are just absolutely, completely rotten, okay? Some of the places that they're putting these interns into and expecting them to work as fully qualified doctors are just, I mean, it's just ridiculous, okay? And these guys couldn't cope. Now, when you've got that kind of environment, all right, what happens is those interns, okay, are going to be looking for greener pastures. What? More money, better hours, better conditions. And if their country doesn't offer them that, then they're going to leave. It's as simple as that. If your working environment is not supportive of you as a worker, you're going to leave. And you're going to seek greener pastures, better money, better conditions, better whatever, okay? And that is why the people are leaving, the medical staff are leaving like it's going out of fashion, okay, the doctors. They're not being recruited. Nobody's recruiting them. They are on their own accord seeking employment out of South Africa for the simple reason that to stay in South Africa is going to kill them. I mean, I couldn't believe it. And you know, this girl, she came from a medical family, okay? Her father at one stage was second in command at Grooteskier, okay? Her mother was, I don't know what. They were all in the medical field, so it wasn't a strange thing to her. But she was 2 hours short of being a week on duty, day and night. And today she's dead. Isn't that wonderful? That's a brilliant working environment. And that she's not the only one. Okay? She's not the only one. Okay? So, when your government hasn't got the guts to make your the environment conducive to keeping the people there, okay, the doctors, the nurses, the teachers, the everything else. When the government is not creating the best environment that they can for their workers, people are going to Chaya Mabrix somewhere else.
They go somewhere else where there's greener pastures.
Yeah, they don't need to be recruited. They don't need to be recruited.
All
They
right.
leave themselves.
They live themselves. Thank you so much, Sally, for that. Tetewa mashoko makadiko.
Amel makundi
Tiri kunzwai makadi.
tiripo makadiyo imimi.
Tinofara dziri sei mhuri ikoko.
Dzinongoda nechando chemanchester chaakupera ichi.
Shall we blame people of Manchester there that gave you a job there? They should have left you to, get a job in Zimbabwe and develop your country.
Asichina. It's very interesting. Mkwasho wangu, I'm not personalizing it. Mkwasho wangu, doctorate, doctor. He knows exactly what he's talking about and why he's saying what he's saying. The truth of the matter is this: self-actualization, Maslow's law. Self-actualization, trukuda self-esteem, trukuda mvura, basic needs. Feeling safe, raising vana vako and being ambitious, nevana vako and feeling kuti I'm achieving something. When a government, and that's the purpose of having a government in the first place. That's what they're supposed to make sure kuti my citizens have access to. When that doesn't happen, there is no better weapon of actually displacing somebody. They just make you feel uncomfortable, unwelcome. They remove that safety net here, and where you are like, okay, that's enough. So it's exactly the same thing. When that safety, that purpose, that self-worthiness as a husband of not being able to provide for my basic needs, boots or uniform, that's enough. So that aside, let's go back to my African leaders. Do you know, Kwandino Gara, it's quite conservative. But do you know, wherever I go, it's like, oh, here comes Mugabe's daughter. How are you? So Mugabe, what I'm trying to say is, he represents everything that is wrong with African leaders. He is the ultimate. If you want anybody who study politics and human rights law and God knows what else, Mugabe is a classical. He epitomizes exactly what is so wrong with Africa in this day and age. Having said that, it's one thing for us, Kuramba Tishiti, what's wrong with my African leaders? Do you know that it's actually a change process? If you go to European history did have their dark years as well, where people really held on to power and the tainted chalet or something like that, where you're given a glass of wine and it has got poison. Because and then they are gone. So it is a process, but then even though it is a process of actually then moving into people respecting my human rights, people understanding kuti you need vanhu kuti my country ite forward. You need my think tanks kuti vanhu vati, okay, what are our resources? To exportation so that we have got more money coming in, so that we have my infrastructures. The question then becomes, who are the true leaders? Who are those who are willing to go to the front line and say, okay, that's enough of the old guard? And what structures are you going to put in place to make sure history does not repeat itself? So, you know what? This can be done. It has been Tinayo history, not like it can be done. We have got Sankara, we have got here Tanzania, we have got here, I'm confusing between Rwanda and Burundi. There's 1 year, even Munomama.
That's Rwanda.
Years, it is being brought to America, and there was this huge project, and I was really sad. But Zimbabwe, which was respectable, and people with a very short memory. Zimbabwe, kuti chikura tese tichinyatsonzwa kuti tiri maZimbabweans tichinakidzwa neupenyu. Zimbabwean dollar was 1 to 1 pound. I remember my sister going to UK, achipuwa 600 pounds. Iri mari yakasimba. So, it can be done. So here's Ndishipedza in conclusion. 2000, around about 2000, 2005, University of Manchester, papa in a village yaitonyatsozikanwa kunzi Botswana village. My students aitumirwa neBotswana village. Vouya voita ma-PhDs, ma-masters avo and so forth. And I don't think pane vaienda vaine mabhiri. Of them were masters and PhDs. I can guarantee you vamwe vaitoti vasati vaconferred vaitokwira ndege kudzokera back. Vaidzokera vachiwana ma-positions avo already. Vegeneration yangu vachiri kuyeuka Botswana ine one traffic light. Iye zvino vana half of vana vakabuda between Zimbabwe and South Africa, I mean Botswana and South Africa, but in Botswana. But Botswana had nothing. There was nothing to go there for, absolutely nothing. So this is about, and inini yangu semai vakuru kudai, I'm challenging vechidiki kuti, you know what, it's all fair and fine to have these platforms. What are you going to do about it? Now that you have got all this knowledge, what's the next step? And finally, no, they're not pinching anybody. No. Tisu tiri kutoenda certificates toti, you know what, ndikuona kuti panapa ndingatoita mungandibatsire. Kutovabhega. And then kune mama-universities vanikainvesti yandoshandira ini. Unotonzwa chitoti ana Petronella tokupaiwo zvakati kaizvo. Muda kuzodzokera here kuZimbabwe kana sekuru wenyu afa munoshandisa ma-skills akadaro. They are there, ma-programs akadaro. So it's not about skilling, it's about offering opportunities yekuti this is going to go to West, and realizing kuti ma-governments edu don't have the capacity yekubhadhara munhu ma-skills ainawo and then live a life iri so fulfilling. So no matter how much we are paid, home is home. I miss kumusha kwangu kumondoro. Denezvozvi ndiri kumondoro nchidya mbora so home is home, but it's what's happening ndo zviri kudisplace someone.
Mkoma Sodza.
Right. No, batai makadaro. Mkoma Tawanda.
DJ Sodza makadi.
Tasuma tinofara chose makadiko.
Ndiko kuno nana Trump wedu vanonga vachingoita blunder every day, one blunder every day. Hapana zuva rinopfuura asina kuita blunder.
Musadaro His Excellency. Kwanidi makavhotera.
Vakavhota.
Right. Right. Mukoma Tawanda. Muri kuinzwa nyaya iri kutaurwa panapa iyi. The first question yandandabvunza zvangu ndandabvunzwa imwe question yapostwa navapfebve kuFacebook vachiti zvinovashamisa kuti ngei vanotungamira kuAfrica uko vachirarama upenyu hwakakura kwazvo, asi vanhu vavanotungamirira havararami kusvika upenyu uhwo hwakawanda. Is this by coincidence? But anyhow, taitaura kutanga iyoyo anokuti musati maapo, but nyaya dzochinjirudzwa manje namukoma Benford zvikanzi actually, you know what, we are talking of Africa Day here. He believed kuti Eastern Western countries should shoulder a large portion of blame in scooping, the brains of Africa, to come and work kuno kwamuri kwa America ikoko imimi. Really, kwanziko mukasapuwa basa ikoko kwa America ikoko, you would find your way in Zimbabwe and develop Zimbabwe. Get a job there. Which is quite a eye-opening statement to make. It got you thinking, isn't it?
Kubotaura kunoita vanhu vakarerekera kunozoenda ZANU-PF. Because ZANU-PF right now you hear them blaming sanctions for problems that are in Zimbabwe. It's the same thing that Mkoma Benford is doing. You are blaming the Western world.
Munoreva ZANU-PF munoreva zanu PF yanzina wamoyo ndiyo number 1 in policy creation kwa Africa yose.
Atikatopedza nguva tichedzera zotaura namoyo. You know. Basically, I mean, to be honest with you, it's not Africa's, it's not Europe's problem.
Right. Mukoma tawanda hatisi kunyatso kukunzwai zvakanaka muri paipo.
Everywhere else on ourselves, you know.
Hatisi kunyatso kukunzwai zvakanaka. Right.
Vafriza.
Meloti.
Vatuka moyo ndo zvakafrisa watu.
Mukoma tawanda.
No, vanenge vachizviziva kuti vanenge vachinyepa. Saka usually pane ma-internal conflict kana munhu achireve nhema zvaitwa nanapevha natetu vemashoko.
Right.
That's bias by omission. Yeah, because the person is not here now, you are trying to that's bias by omission. You are not even spinning. That's bias by omission.
Omitting what? Omitting what?
Omitting.
And when I made, in fact, when I made the reference, when I said when people are telling lies, I even said Feve and Teto Mashoko. I mean Muripo and it.
Trump syndrome.
What lies are you talking about? That you have,
when you were talking of
that will corrupt the government
accountability. No, when we're talking of transparency and accountability in some of these belongings and what have you.
That's a right. Where is the billion? Where is the 15 billion? It's your president who said he's missing 15 billion. Is that accountability?
Yeah, I mean, if he comes out and says there is 15 billion missing here, it's accountability. But if he was refusing,
and who has been arrested? Any of inquiry?
Sorry?
Mentioning and being accountable is two different things, isn't it?
Yes.
Any commission of inquiry? Any report back?
No,
billion, you tell us. Maybe you inside information.
Ichinya.
Okay. Pamsore wamoyo. Pamsore. Mukoma tawanda madzoka here.
Ndadzoka.
Endelea zvimbe.
Yeah, ndangachitaura kuti we have a problem, particularly in Zimbabwe, that every time when we have a problem, we want to blame everyone else except ourselves. We cannot be shifting blame to the Western world. That what is happening right now, that the brain drain that is happening is a Europe problem. You know, like now we have done PF. It set up a grant at the University of Zimbabwe to give students to investigate the effect of sanctions on the Zimbabwean economy. You know, that's pure propaganda. That's just trying to blame people who are not to blame. You know, our problem is not of sanctions. And similarly, our problem is not because of the Western countries. If I have my skills, I will definitely look somewhere where my skills will be better rewarded. You know, so the onus is on Africa. The onus is on Zimbabwe to make sure that it retains its skilled labor. We are now living in this world is like a global village, you know, and competition is the order of the day. And if Zimbabwe is not competitive enough, if its labor market is not competitive enough to attract the best skills that it has, it should not blame South Africa. It should not shift blame to Botswana. You know, it should look for the problems within itself. Why are the people going away? Why are the people running away from Zimbabwe? So it's entirely at our doorstep. Doorstep. The elephant is in our room. You know, the problem that we have in Zimbabwe is a problem of accountability. It's a problem of our economy. It's a problem of lack of transparency, rather than everything else that we might try to talk about. It's not only about a country, you know, availing positions or labor positions in their country. There are a lot of things that you consider when you are, before you decide to leave a country. Are you safe in that country? You are not safe. Is there freedom of speech, freedom of expression, you know, freedom of association? All those things, you know, you consider them before leaving a country or going to any country. Because even before you go to you migrate to the UK, you migrate to South Africa, you look about those things. You definitely investigate. Is my family going to be safe? If I talk, will I not end up in jail? You know, that's the problem we have in Zimbabwe. We have never been able to talk freely in our country. In 1980 to 1990, you do something, you say something, you know, or you criticize the government, you criticize Robert Mugabe, you were automatically seen as an enemy of the government. You automatically told that you are being unpatriotic. And those issues are the issues that brought us to where we are today, because we're never given the chance, we're never never that free to express ourselves and to pinpoint a problem before they got bigger, you know. So what we are seeing right now is a manifestation of what has been happening in Zimbabwe. People are leaving because there are no jobs. People are leaving because there is no freedom of speech, freedom of expression, and all other freedoms that we can talk about.
Yeah,
Zimbabwe corrects that situation. You will see teachers going back to Zimbabwe. You will see nurses going back to Zimbabwe. Just an example, during the unity government, I was in Botswana myself. I'm telling you, there are thousands and thousands of people who went back home saying, you know. So that's when you will see that it's not the problem of Botswana. You cannot blame South Africa. You cannot blame the UK. If we make things right in our country, nobody is going to go, nobody is going to leave Zimbabwe. So what we should do as Zimbabweans is to make sure that we get our country working again. We fight for freedom. We fight for the political dispensation to be removed, completely removed. We need to remove that system, that Robert Mugabe system, and put a new dispensation, a new political dispensation that will ensure that we have jobs, we have freedom of speech, we have all the other things that we are looking for in this country.
Right. Okay, Batai Magadar. Sekura, I know you want to chip in, but let me also read what
actually,
is.
Actually, it was a joke that it's not important.
It's not important, okay. The people are writing to me. Kunevaya vane ma WhatsApp angu. They are texting me, kuno, you know, vachipao ma contributions out. Thank you so much, guys. Kwanza mkoma meso. Mkoma, the real problem in our countries is lack of fiscal discipline, gross misappropriation of revenues from an abundance of resources. This thing called donor funded, in brackets, has made developing countries beggars. The governments have a dependency syndrome where they think until amen, foreigners will keep on pouring money direct into government coffers without accountability. Now donors shut down the channels directly into governments. Now do it through NGOs. Most infrastructures were resuscitated and maintained through those funds, while specific ministerial budget allocations were misused. And for example, in Zimbabwe, we've got Derude, DDF, ZimDF, ZDI, etc. Over all these years, without investing into infrastructure, development, especially healthcare, especially the healthcare status, will continue to get worse. Let's not blame everything on other nations for our own self-inflicted wounds. Surely those trends of spreading more than what's coming in, or spending more than what's coming in, results in what we have today. Number 1, reduce corruption. Number 2, reduce theft by conversion of state conversion of state or institution. Vanga vada kuti conversion but wakanganisa kunyora, but anyway, conversion of state or institutions resources. Embrace accountability. And number 4, honest and transparency. Ndiri kuona mazwi ari kunyorwa apa ataurwa nevanhu vakawanda pano: transparency, accountability, honesty. Those are some of the words coming through. And until we start taking ownership of our own responsibilities and to include failures, we will continue to have countries on maps but not counted as vibrant rising economies. Kunyora kuri kuita vamwe kuno. Rega ndione pane mumwe andinyorera futi earlier on. Kwanziko Eduardo dos Santos was very young when he got into power, but he is still there. I was 13 at the time. I think inenge yasvika kudhara patati kutaura nyaya yekuti why mapresident nemaprime minister ekuafrica achirarama for basically for eternity, and their people are dying right side and center. Anyhow, Sekuru, you wanted to say something?
Andanda kuti kuna tawanda asaisa zvichanda munzeve kana vakuru vachitaura. Takaina Didi vasimutasa vakadzidza vacho ivavo vane manyawi ngavaende, tisari tava vashoma tikwane maresources ari muno.
Ah, fabulous. That sounds very good. Right. Mukoma Belfort.
Yeah, DJ Sodza.
Maybe vanhu they got you wrong there. Mamuda kuweza kuexplaina kuti chii pamativi. You know, these countries should take a blame as well on what has happened in Africa in terms of scooping their cream from Africa. You know, labor, when you talk of labor.
Yeah, Maita Basa DJ Sodza. I think you're right. People are getting me wrong. I'm not saying Africa is perfect. Okay? There is a lot that we can do as Africans and as African countries to make things better. We cannot argue against my issues of corruption in Africa. I think to compare my continents also, Africa enjoys the West when it comes to corruption. Africa is probably the West when it comes to some of my government policies. And Africa in general. There is no excuse why probably the richest continent in terms of natural resources is the poorest. And for that we can only blame ourselves as Africans. Okay? What I was trying to say is we should also realize that at the moment America, Europe, Australia, they have an advantage over Africa. And they will definitely want to continue with that kind of advantage. And one way through they do that is they make sure that the best brains of Africa leave Africa and come and work for them. Now, what you people are saying here is you are saying Africa should make conditions similar or better to what the situation is in America, Australia. It's going to take I don't know how many centuries because we are way, way behind. If you look at why
are we? Let me finish. India is making it. The tigers have done it. The Asian tigers have done it, and they said the Africans can't do it.
So let me finish. In 2 minutes I'll be done, then more town. Now, the example of China, Yamanga Muchipa, you will find that it is only recently that China is in a capacity to attract its own Chinese scientists. No, not only Chinese scientists, they are attracting scientists from all over the world. It's something that happened in the last decade. Well, India, I don't know what you mean. They are among the poorest people in the world. You find them in India. So
I differ. I can give you figures for that.
The figures don't mean a thing. You have to interpret.
Hang on. Let me tell you. India is not among least developed countries in the world, which is the poorest. Okay. And it's not, right? We are not saying that in India there are not poor people. We are talking about the GDP per capita. So India is totally out of that equation. Yes, with 2.4 trillion, with a GDP of 2.4 trillion, which is almost equivalent to 54 countries in Africa. You can't say that country is poor by any means and measure.
Let me help you, Pepe. You know, the company, the Jaguar Land Rover, UK. It's owned by the
Tata, which is India. Yeah.
And this person is telling me, Zimbabwe, what does it own in any other developed country?
Ndandichida kukumbira on that note ndikumbira kuvhunza mukwasha wangu one question. During the past year, country one ine patents yaka-apply for patents ndeipi?
What do you mean by that question?
Patents products. Which country was it?
I don't know what to do in a question.
What I'm trying to say is it's actually China. It's actually China. Why China? The best way of having money is kutanga ivo vega kuinventa things, building things, and then exporting those things. Until vanhu vaziya kuti imi your own country kutanga kuzviitira ringava badza chairo renyu mega motanga kuexporta, knowing and tapping into the market kuti vanhu vari kuda chi and investing muvanhu venyu citizens. Then this whole conversation, then it's apana purpose. And it's not down to governments.
That's the reason why Africa is why it is. In Africa, you find the inter-Africa trade. I'm talking about the countries in Africa, they don't trust to trade with each other.
True. Now we are talking.
Inter-Africa trade is 11%, and 89% is traded outside Africa. Yet Africa is home to 1.2 billion. When Africa yake 1.2 billion, vari kuda kumhanyira kunoti vaite trade ne 60 million yeku UK. Right?
But the infrastructure yacho ye trade iri pakati pe African countries hapana. Sometimes you have to fly to Europe to go to an African country.
I do understand we still have the challenges, but what we are saying, the policymakers and the leadership, they need to
those things zofana kutoitwa improved kuti for those trade to take place, and there's an opportunities.
I do agree with you.
African business people, they should explore that opportunity. My infrastructure. I mean, there's a lot of money in Africa which nobody is trying to exploit.
Something like Zimbabwe would rather buy rice from India than from Malawi. Why? And Malawi would rather export their rice to UK. Why? Right?
My exports actually either exporting or importing from China. Something behind it. Again, China things for nothing. Maybe India, but even then, there's always something trade-off. Whereas Malawi, it's just a train, just loading my trains. That's it.
Okay, right. But Makadaro, Mkoma chemist Masura Zero. Hello, mkoma chemist muripo era. Hai mashuro wangu baba wangu chirandi. Vanhu muri kungofona mic dzenyu makaita sei kona sir?
But Mkoma Sodza, I feel that you have allocated acres of space to people saying the same thing without giving others, enough. Yeah, no, Chekutanga, people have been telling lies, Panal. Yeah, Chekutanga, when people were talking of the emergence of countries like China, India, and the Asian countries, they are not telling the truth in terms of how did they come out of their bad situations to good situations. If you look at their policies, like the Zimbabwean policies and the Chinese policies, suppose we compare and contrast. What is the difference? Where are the differences and similarities? The first thing is none of these developing countries, some of which are now developed, were assisted from outside. Apana, not even one. They assisted themselves. And that even includes Japan. It was never assisted by anyone else. There's not even a single country, this one developed by assistance from outside. The people looked at themselves from inside. The Chinese, for example, what they did was in the 1970s, they sent 40,000 people to go and study outside.
Why?
And then brought, sorry?
Why? So that not assisted?
No, it's not being assisted. They were assisting themselves. Nobody said, come, we will trade. No, they actually sourced for their own funds, sent their own people. Because they had realized that we do not have this knowledge, we don't have this skill, we don't have this. They identified that. And Zimbabwe also did the same thing when it embarked on massive education and training programs to create the indigenization and everything that Zimbabwe is talking about. This is not the first African country to do that. It was started by Tanzania, Zambia tried to follow suit, and then Zimbabwe is the third country to be talking of that. In Zambia, the actual call is Zambia.
Age of retirement in Zimbabwe.
Sorry?
Age of retirement in Zimbabwe.
That is the material. Some of the countries that do not even have. I think it's 65. I think it is 65.
Right. Mugabani makore mangani?
92. 94.
Why are you defending a senile man? No. Are you sure a 90-something-year-old man is the right person to implement it?
Okay, but in terms of policy implementation, yes, you are right, because those are the policies that work. If you understand the policy,
somebody's lying.
Can I give you the right facts based on what?
Your right facts. Your right facts don't exist. They don't work. They don't exist.
Don't even go to China or to India. Just neighbor Botswana, right? Botswana is a good example. Is an country
of what? Botswana is a good example of what?
It's a good example. Yakabva least developed country in a developed country.
Botswana is a developed country.
I'm saying developing. Zimbabwe is not even developing country. It's
Botswana is developing in what sphere? Explain that. It's developing, but we
have got 3 classifications. We have got
qualify the developing part. Botswana is developing. How qualify that?
That
does not make it developed.
Guys,
this one DJ, can I just
okay, all right. Okay.
Guys, everybody.
I'm sorry, guys. Mukoma chemist, maskira say.
Ndaswera mukoma motondenzwa.
Kuri say kunobvio.
kuri right but ndoda kukusungisai mese vadare vese because mukutiratidza kurara kumwe
isheti kanjani kuna makatipfekera sheti
Yeah, you're right.
Hi, Tommy.
Sally, how are you, my dear?
ngoma kemi muri right here
ndiri right vamoenda kusuwa izvakatovara ndichakutsvaga ndisvika ndakuwana ichete right
tichakurukura kusaidi kana neniwo ndiri kutsvaga izvi
munoziva ndachida kukumbira kubvunza vadare ndinoziva kuti pane vadare vakasimba saka mibvunzo yange yanga iri miiri but ndokutanga ndaita a little bit of a preamble yokuti you know the context ndekuti ini ndinogara ndakashungurudzwa nenyaya yekufunga nyaya yekuti power structures in society dzakandivhiringidza makuriro ndakatanga ndiri pa I never started on the same starting line as many people in the world until ndakuzomboti changamuke mbichana maybe ndokumbofamba here ndokumbodzidzawo mbichana 1 or 2 mabooks but one thing I did understand and I grasped fully was the understanding of the disempowerment of a group of people that has happened over time. In some cases it was enslavement, slavery, sometimes Yangeri colonialization. And I understand that there are some instruments that were being used over time to keep that status quo of the disempowerment of people, but the empowerment of others at the expense of others. Saka, would we comfortably be able to recognize and call it like it is if we saw modern day enslavement? That's my first question. And the second question, Dekutio, what preparedness do you think us as Africans in the diaspora have we got in order to safeguard from that modern day enslavement?
Yes, I can. I will volunteer to answer Mkom. All right, Niki, the problem we have the enslavement. In the enslavement, Mkoma Domi, there are two forms of enslavement. There is physical enslavement, where people were hunted down like animals, bundled on ships, moved across seas, and they were used as slaves. That is the physical enslavement. But the worst form of enslavement that has perpetuated to this day, particularly with the approval of the slaves themselves, is the mental slavery. That is the most debilitating problems that we have had as the people of the developing world. It is the mental slavery. So when a person has been mentally colonized, has been mentally enslaved, and he accepts that as the right position and as the right thing to do, that person is now impossible to deal with. In English, they say this person is now incorrigible. You cannot correct them in any way. So unless we deal with that aspect of mental slavery, these are the problems that will actually continue. If you look at the debate that has been going on this platform, the majority of which is mere mental slavery, and not which is completely disjointed from reality. So for as long as somebody has been so badly
Moyo, are you talking of yourself there?
Mental slavery, that person is lost completely. We have lost that person.
Mugabe ndo zvari kuita systematically. Give an example ya Mugabe kuti you know what, mentally, financially, even
kana mati ndipe example ya Mugabe ka chirega ndipe example yacho kana makundipa imwe example akuda kuti ndita semuda ndipite zvamukutaurira.
You volunteer to explain. You volunteer.
Saka kana mati ipa example ya Nhingi, topa example ya Nhingi. Look at that person.
Moyo atidi example.
Look at example yakanda musuda.
Atidi example yacho. Yes.
Saka the request, I take it the request has been withdrawn and I accept it to withdraw.
Okay. And slavery does not necessarily mean white against black or black against white. Okay, it can be black against black.
It's you who are putting colors. It's you who is putting colors. I never put colors. I talked of mental slavery. I never put a color.
You said that. I didn't say.
What did I say?
I want to make it very clear. Here we are talking. if the truth be said, mental slavery and physical slavery is so pronounced in Africa than any other continent.
Yes. And mental slavery is even worse for educated. The more educated people they are, the more they are mentally enslaved. Yes,
And
you are right there.
Okay.
You,
Mugabe.
Pam sorry. Mukoma Kemi. Murungu yona hondo inenge iri panapa. Mukoma Kemi. I've got a question for you now.
Yes.
Let me put this question to you. Yabvunzwa nevanhu pano kuti, do you think kuti really let me give an example of imimi murumu UK, that really the UK government should just say, listen, we don't want these people from Zimbabwe, all these professionals from Zimbabwe, please stay in your country. We don't give them any job here, don't give them any visa here, stay in your country. Could that help develop Africa?
Would that help develop Africa?
Yes.
Ironically, I think it would, because unfortunately, I'm an advocate of choice. Feel comfortable, but I want to answer directly your question with my humble opinion. There's a group of people that will choose, I'm going to the White Cliffs of Dover and I'm going to fall off and I'm going to chuck myself into the sea, and it's okay. And the end, sorry, but I love the Iranian commentary. But I think also there will be even if it's 10%, I'm telling you my conviction right now. Tikawanda 10% of the population of diaspora right now. Ikatsokera ku Zimbabwe ikati mutodzokera chete. Moko vavhariwa. Ndipo abaki acho atobuda mato jeni unless kana uda kuenda neZimbabwe unoziva kuti ndinondonda pa Lake Malawi hapana kwauri kudzokera. Ukutogara uri muZimbabwe chete. 10% yevari out of Zimbabwe. I'm telling you, Zimbabwe inosimuka is really different. Yes, ndina nhamo yekutoti tingotaura. This is the action you get on the ground, because there's no people to do it, and sometimes it's not just about the resources. Sometimes it's about kufunga chaiko. Somebody will get inspired to think, hey, why haven't I done that? Why haven't I seen this? I'm confident that, as I said, I mean, maybe it's ambitious, but I think 10%. Let's deal with this statistic. 10. Kana 2 or 20%. Kana 2 vakadzokera Zimbabwe. Maripanda paka. Mirantangi na sekunda wafeve. If you don't see Zimbabwe kanaka, you know what
Pareto principle inoti 2.
Okay. Seguru, but it is clear, Mukoma Kemi, where you are going.
Yes.
But anyway.
Yes.
But
you see, no.
Aye. Varikuda vanhu tu. Ivo Mukoma Kemi navamwoyo. Vanodzokere kuZimbabwe izvozvi. Vanogara muZimbabwe. Vaone nhamo iri kuZimbabwe. It's not about the problem of Zimbabwe. It's not about lack of skills in Zimbabwe, lack of people who are committed, lack of people who are not patriotic. It's the environment. You can come relive the UK or America with all the capital that we have, with all the skills that we have acquired and the experience that we have acquired in the diaspora. But when you get to Zimbabwe, that is useless. It's useless because the environment is not conducive to any investment. It's not conducive to anyone even trying anything. There is corruption, there is lack of transparency, there is lack of rule of law. Who want to go and put his money there? There are people right now, Zimbabwean people, who have money to go and invest in Zimbabwe, to turn around the economy in Zimbabwe. But they cannot go and do it in that environment, in that toxic environment. We need to remove that environment first. That is what we need to do. And you don't have to be in Zimbabwe to do that.
I'm
sorry.
Okay. That environment, replace it with an environment that is conducive to business, that will attract labor, that will attract foreign investment, that will attract even our investment in Zimbabwe.
Mukoma Tawanda.
Yeah.
Right. Zvamunoona Zimbabwe. This is another issue that I think you would think is us as Zimbabweans. We need to develop and get away from this business yekuti madaidzwa kunzi kune muchato mukoma Kema vari kuchata kwanzi iko muchato uri kutanga na 12 o'clock uchipera na 1 o'clock and people want to turn up at 1:10. I'm afraid we laugh about it. I know we laugh about it as Zimbabweans. I think until we learn that time is money, we can never go anywhere. Now, the thing why I'm saying that is this show, we want to start it on time and we want to finish it on time. There is no way we can drag it for 10 more hours. We want to be professional. We finish on time, we start on time. After, unfortunately, but anyway, before we start time maybe we really have to stop now. Pane this terrorist attack yakaitika ku Manchester actually. Kwanzi kune mchinda wa ku Zimbabwe, zita rake mchinda wa ku Zimbabwe Raymond Matimba ari kunzi anga ari mu group rachiruri. Revano ari kuita izvozvo zvekujoina ICC. Now, a lot of people have been saying a lot of things on Mwashanza akafa, Wamashkanzi mpenyo and all that, but nobody really knows what's happening. But someone now said to me, dai munhu iyeyuyu atora bhombo rake oenda naro pane pari kuitwa ZANU rally ondoputitsira ipapo zvingatibatsire. Chokwadi munhu anganyore kuno achititaurira zvinhu zvakadaro muZimbabwe.
Kwete parali panoitwa political meeting paState building ndo paanofanira kundoputitsira ipapapo zvife zvese.
No, sometimes that you know surrender so kuti vana zvinhu izvi mune mazvifunga nguwai kuti mutaure zvinhu zvakadai. It's amazing.
Unenge ari pashift iri kurwadza ofunga kuti dana ndigumba then shift 39 to 5.
Robert igonye rinovava Robert.
Zvisine zvatakuita pana paZimbabwe ndezvekuti isusu
but unfortunately
chirongwa choperera pano. Isusu nemika tinosangana next week, same time same place. Enjoy your weekend, and for those that are going to drink a little bit of beer ana sekuru moita muchidira mvura pija na sekuru kuti musazotuke mbuya kumushawo. And may I also wish you good luck on Saturday at Wembley Stadium there. And good luck indeed.
I was wondering when you were going to wish us good luck.
I wish you all the best.
Qualify for World Cup 3 times.
I wish you all the best there, even though I know what the result will be, which I'm not going to share with you right now, but I wish you all the best. I wish you. Zimbabwe ndokusiya makaterera kukambo kubva kuna tete wangu wanonzi Lindsay, akambo kanonzi Ghetto Prayer. You my fellow Zimbabweans out there, please do take care of yourselves and your loved ones. Mukoma Kemi, are you live tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm going to forget. I'm going to try it. What
have you got lined up for us?
Before I finalize about it.
Freelance
if need be, but I think it need to line that way now. We're building up. Saka totaura nyaya dzechitita atingamboramba tichebera kuti kune mari kuZimbabwe kusina mari muchinitaura nyaya kuti mama kusongwa muchinobhadhara pasupermarket paya inorwadza iyo.
No, Mukoma Kemi, what you have to do, endai padhuze nepa South End paya. There's a place inonzi Benfleet. Pane ya mondotema mashizha emupuranga nemashizha emugwavha. All you do is mosvika kumba moboilisa mvura. Moboilisa mvura, then what you do is moisa pasi motora gumbezi kana chiduve cheche mofuga so mofuga so saka chiuti chacho chinechi chipfungaira cheche mosweta. They stay in there for 5 minutes. Be a man and stay there for 5 minutes. Mosweta. I'm sure tomorrow you'll be absolutely super to do your show.
Thank you so much. Man, manya
ipa kumugadzirisa.
Ngoma kendo kujira kutwara zvenya. Sawangoya matonga kunyepera vanhu.
Asi yangu wanokumira mumhepo zvingava zviroto zvisingabudise chipo kuva nemikana ndozvinodarika asi raramo yacho ndoyaisa kundika ndakambozama kuneve ukama vamwe vangayamura asi zvakaramba ndangova ndega zinya rimwe ndega musango pasina anopanga mazano nderera inokuta msunenge wapamai aiwa ndabuma mudzimu ndiringe ini ndoimba chamtengure ndinoringa kure ndoutani yanga nditakanure chamtengure ndinoringa kure ndoutani yanga nditakanure asi yangu wanokumira mumhepo zvingava zviroto zvisingabudise chipo asi yangu wanokumira mumhepo zvingava zviroto zvisingabudise chipo rarama upenyu sina nombokuridzira zvarema zvanetsa pasino kumboturira misodzi yosuka matama chingoyerera nhamo dzenyika ndatadza kudzikunda ndega vari kuuzuru ndimika vari kumhepo muri yamakasiya honai ndongodzingaira naimwari wendeta sendakazvarirwa nambo kugara ndichichema zvanzi ndini ndariko chamtengure ndinoringa kure ndoutani yanga nditakanure chamtengure ndinoringa kure ndoutani yanga nditakanure asi yangu wanokumira mumhepo zvingava zviroto zvisingabudise chipo asi yangu wanokumira mumhepo zvingava zviroto zvisingabudise chipo kuva nemikana ndozvinodarika asi raramo yacho ndoyaisa kundika ndakambozama kuneve ukama vamwe vangayamura asi zvakaramba ndangova ndega zinya rimwe ndega musango pasina anopanga masana nderera inokuta msunenge wapamai aiwa ndabuma chamtengure ndinoringa kure ndoutani yanga nditakanure chamtengure ndinoringa kure ndoutani yanga nditakanure asi yangu wanokumira mumhepo zvingava zviroto zvisingabudise chipo asi yangu wanokumira mumhepo zvingava zviroto zvisingabudise chipo ndinoringa kure nditakanure ndinoringa kure nditakanure
Ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of entertainment. Now stop it, you bell. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of entertainment. Now stop it, you bell.
Asi yangu wanokumira mumhepo zvingava zviroto zvisingabudise chipo kuva nemikana ndozvinodarika asi raramo yacho ndoyaisa kundika ndakambozama kuneve ukama vamwe vangayamura asi zvakaramba ndangova ndega zinya rimwe ndega musango pasina anopanga mazano nderera inokuta msunenge wapamai aiwa ndabuma mudzimu ndiringe ini ndoimba chamtengure ndinoringa kure ndoutani yanga nditakanure chamtengure ndinoringa kure ndoutani yanga nditakanure asi yangu wanokumira mumhepo zvingava zviroto zvisingabudise chipo asi yangu wanokumira mumhepo zvingava zviroto zvisingabudise chipo rarama upenyu sina nombokuridzira zvarema zvane
kunonetsa pasina kumboturira misodzi yosuka matama chingoyerera nhamo dzenyika ndatadza kudzikunda ndega vari kuuzuru ndimika vari kumhepo mhuri yamakasiya honai ndongodzingaira naimwari wendeta sendakazvarirwa nambo kugara ndichichema zvanzi ndi